Thank you very much, Your Excellency, dear Chair, dear and regarded colleagues, much esteemed attendees, dear panelists, and Your Excellencies and all. Allow me to thank you all today for your participation in this intersessional consultation as mandated by operative paragraph 10 of UNGA Resolution 75282. So the theme of this panel is striving to remain one step ahead, thinking beyond traditional prevention approaches. Although a surely vast area of research and debate, I wish to emphasize during my intervention a particular topic: remaining one step ahead in preventing cybercrime that targets and affects children and youth. This committee described, even at its early stages of reflection, the very dangers that lie ahead of cyber development regarding children and youth. It's full of opportunities as a field in general, but regardless, it has a harmful potential for our own economic interests, member states' national security, and our democratic lives. Immense challenges are presented before us. I also emphasize, before I begin the core of my speech, that I'm not only speaking today as the president of the largest youth-led think and do tank in Europe, but also as a young man that turned 20 in November, that has been affected personally by the effects of cyber threats, and that undoubtedly tries to better the world around him regarding this very important question. So I would like to put the pin on three key elements in my allocution this morning. First, the current, witnessable, and reinforcement of cyber threats oriented towards young people and children. Then I will introduce what's more of a criticality assessment of identified assets of interest, in a way, as you could say, regarding youth security, having a gap identification afterwards. And finally, and this will be my conclusion, the necessity to build sovereign industrial capacities for better integration within the cyberspace for young people. So, first, let me begin with the rise of cyber threats oriented towards youth. So, the different versions of what is now the present draft of this convention detail the prevalence of cyber threat, which is of several kinds. It can include data theft, sabotage, both to the detriment of companies, administrations, individuals. And it can also include things that might be more personal to some. What can go to cyber harassment, blackmail. Some of these predatory operations are what can be described as a new form of organized cybercrime. And through the internet and social networks, we are all aware that the cyberspace is also a vector for the dissemination of hate messages and the manipulation of information. Regardless of the industry, the sector, government authorities typically require organizations with access to data to adhere to regulations designed to safeguard sensitive, high-value data and other online assets. Children and youth have sometimes a deficit of information regarding these high-value data. And although it differs in terms of rules, potential fines, and the execution of sanctions, the regulatory environment here is changeable. Depending on the jurisdiction, compliance is also defined differently. We have data protection and privacy laws, transactional and cybercrime laws, consumer protection laws. But they are the four main areas under which cybersecurity rules fall, according to the UN Conference on Trade and Development. And regarding the different regulations, more than 80% of nations formally identify and prosecute cybercrime. And sadly, when we look at the recent numbers regarding youth participation in the decision-making processes regarding cybercrime, it is still too low. All of these guidance take full measure of the evolution and intensification of cyber threats and the increased exposure of our increasingly digitalized and interconnected youth and children to such dangers. Cyber criminals can conduct highly targeted operations as well as massive and undifferentiated ones. Moreover, the rise of the cyber threat is fueled by the multiplication of factors, the increase in the offensive capacities of certain industries and perhaps companies or individuals, and the proliferation of computer weapons and trivialization of attack techniques means that there is also an increasing interweaving of cybercrime and national security issues. These issues have the potential to be way more impactful than they seem to be for youth and children. So in a few years, cyberspace has become a place of confrontation, conflict in its own right. Own dynamics based on the instantaneousness of exchanges, network distribution, massiveness of data. Our youth is far from immune to cyber threats. The importance of conducting regular criticality assessments to ensure adequate protection of youth and children assets goes hand in hand with the need for strong privacy and security measures. And these measures are meant to protect youth and children's personal information and personal safety. It is then furthered by the realization of the importance of educating young people and children on cybersecurity risks, best practices, and through innovation, adaptation, we are able to stay ahead of these emerging threats. Thus, anticipation and control of cyber risk are the two key parameters of a defensive IT battle that has become essential to preserve the daily functioning of our youth's interests. It is in this context that when we look at all these questions of anticipation, contributing to the collection of information on group of attackers, likely to harm youth interests. We also have detection, with means that complement the ones of national entities, and thereof to carry out the mission of protection of young people in the cyber domain, we can, of course, use the means that are put at our disposal. It requires significant investments, adaptation of our own organization, specialized personnel in computer security technologies, and the development of new tools. New tools also mean further exploitation, financial means to design, develop, and acquire these said new tools. It requires a parallel development of a strong sovereign capacity for better integration of youth and youth protection within the cyberspace. It's absolutely necessary if member states want to keep the attribute of their youth's sovereignty. From the point of view of the various youth communities spread all over the globe, it requires the continuation and amplification of all the efforts made in recent years in terms of recruitment and investment of services dedicated to the cyber domain. It also means that we need to intensify and consolidate the capabilities of major interdepartmental and international programs on cyber defense. Regarding, dear colleagues, what is in front of us is a multiplicity and intensity of threats that is only reinforced day by day. And it can be combated through stronger methodology that details the possibility for autonomy in democratizing cyber defense tools for member states, and thereof a very own mastery of sovereign critical capacity building. A friend of mine said to me that whenever there is cybercrime, we need cyber time. What we say by cyber time is time to learn about what it is. In France, more than 50% of young people, following a recent Ipsos survey, are not fully aware of cyber risks and were targeted by said cyber risk. I say that because I'm French, but also because this is a relevant example for all excellencies here. According to other research conducted by the International Information Systems Security Certification Consortium, there is an estimated global shortage of nearly 3 million cybersecurity professionals. And we need to help acquire and retain cybersecurity talent, which is necessary to tackle all of this. Experienced workers do demonstrate a high level of mobility and a high level of competency for everyone. It is essential that we will hopefully emphasize the importance of protecting youth and children from cyber threats and will thereof provide guidelines for action in case of breaches of regulation. A possible action plan can include the establishment of clear protocols for reporting breaches of regulations regarding youth and children protection, while developing a system for rapid responses to breaches, including investigation, containment, and notification of affected parties. It is essential to also be providing resources and support for affected youth and children, including counseling and identity theft protection. I thank you for your attention, and I therefore conclude my intervention for now. Thank you, dear Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pierre-Jean Close, for the very interesting organization and the technical points you raised.